I'm with Fredde Mac. My role is Affordable Lending Manager, and my role as Affordable Lending Manager is really a loan officer and real estate agent outreach. We understand that working with housing finance agencies sometimes needs additional level of support. So at Fredde Mac, we recognize this, and they created this role, Affordable Lending Manager, to make sure that we are providing you with the highest level of support that we can when you're originating these housing finance agency loans. So that is my role. I want to make sure that you know that I am completely accessible. You can call me, you can email me, you can text me. At the end of this presentation, you will get a copy of this, and it does have my contact information, as well as our super secret hotline that will allow you to speak directly to our underwriters who can help you really understand if you're running your loans through LPA and you can't figure out why it's not getting approved. Our underwriters can review those LPA findings with you and either assist you to restructure those loans, or at the very least let you know that it's probably not going to work, so that you can pursue other financing options such as FHA. This morning we're going to talk about several things. First one, the state of the housing market. We're going to look at national information, and then we also have some local demographic information as well, so pertinent to here local. We're going to talk about first-time homebuyer demographics, and then HFA advantages, HFA Advantage features and benefits. So we're going to talk about HFA Advantage and how you can use it with the ADFA program. And we're going to talk about a little bit about Loan Product Advisor and additional Fredde Mac tools and resources. If you do have questions, please feel free to jump in and ask questions. We do have plenty of time this morning, so don't be shy. Go ahead and please feel free to ask questions. As far as the state of the housing market, interest rates are on the rise. Mortgage rates still remain historically low. The economy is strong. Economic growth is accelerating. The labor market's at full employment with unemployment rates at multi-decade lows. Home prices are rising. There's a limited supply and a robust demand that's keeping home prices rising, albeit at a slower rate. So nationally, home prices increased at a rate of 5.6% year over year, November 2018, and that's down from 7.1% year over year, November 2017. So a lot of times you'll hear in the media, some people misinterpret what they hear in the media. Some people think that housing prices have flattened out. They absolutely have not. They are still continuing to appreciate, just at a slower rate. So they were appreciating at 7.1%, now they're about 5.6%. And that's important because later on we're going to be talking about mortgage insurance. And we know that even at a very modest 2% increase year over year, in about 65 months, if your borrower is making all their payments on time, they'll be at 80% loan to value automatically. And that's important when you're going conventional, because at that point, you'll be able to remove that PMI. And at a rate of 5.6% at the current tick, it'll be more like 36 months until they're at 80% loan to value. So we'll talk about that a little bit deeper as we move on. And then there's new purchase markets. So millennials and minority groups are poised to buy. There's certainly demographics that you want to pay attention to, because they are going to be your future customers. Household formations are up. 1.6 million in 2018, and that's up from 653,000 in 2013. So household formations have doubled in a short period of time. And all these households, they're going to need homes. They need homes now. There's a limited supply, but these are your customers. Millennials, there's a quarter of millennials living with their parents, and most of their parents want those millennials to find homes too. So it's up to us to help those millennials find homes. There's 20 million in 2018, and that's going to be rising to 25 million in 2038. And then minority share of household growth. So from 2018 to 2028, 56% of all of the household growth will be among minorities. So again, those are going to be your future customers. If you're not already working with them, it's important to start thinking about how you're going to work with them and how you're going to be able to reach out and understanding the differences in working with minorities and non-minorities. Households age 65 and over, there's increasing 16 million from 2018 to 2038. Households age 65 and older they control more than half of the equity in the entire country. And it makes sense. They've been living in their house longer usually. They've been paying it down or paying it off. These households age 65 and older are quite often the source of down payment for first-time home buyers. It's either parents or grandparents giving their children or grandchildren funds for down payment. We'll take a look at those sources as well. As far as first-time home buyer, again, we're talking about national numbers at this point. So these are 2018 first-time home buyer demographics. 33% of all buyers in 2018 were first-time home buyers, so roughly a third. And that's actually decreased from the year before at 34%. Again, nationally speaking, the median age is 31. The median income is $88,800. Down payment sources, so I mentioned it earlier, 59% of these first-time home buyers are coming up with their down payment from savings, and then 23% gifts from friends or relatives. So when we talked about those age 65 or older, they're the ones that are providing gifts to these first-time home buyers so that they can buy their home. 37% used FHA loans, 10% used VA. The typical first-time home buyer loan, a home nationally, is 1,800 square feet and costs $220,000. Now I realize that may be different here locally, even around the state, those numbers can vary. But again, nationally, that's what it looks like. And then first-time home buyers plan to stay in their home for at least 10 years. Now, it's important to note it says plan. Most don't, but that's their mindset. They believe that when they buy that home, that they're going to stay in it for 10 years. I'm taking a look at this chart here, or this graph on the side. 66% of first-time home buyers are married. 15% are unmarried couples. And then we have 12% single females and only 6% single males. So I don't know what the single males are doing, probably chasing the single females. But yeah, single males got some catching up to do. And then 1% other. Taking a look nationally, household demographics. So I mentioned earlier that minorities are increasing. And as we see here over between now and 2050, the environment's going to be changing a lot. So right now, the white non-Hispanic population represents about 62% of the entire population. Over the next period of time, up to 2050, that's actually going to reduce. So by 2050, less than half of the entire U.S. population will be white non-Hispanic. Meanwhile, the Hispanic population will be increasing from 2018, it will be increasing dramatically to 2050. We see that the African American demographic is going to stay roughly flat, and then the Asian demographic, although they're smaller in count, they're going to be increasing as well pretty dramatically. So again, as you start to think about who are your future customers going to be, Hispanic especially are poised to buy, and they're going to continue to increase in population, and that's what your future borrowers are going to look like. You're going to have a much more stronger mix of Hispanics and Asians, and slightly less white non-Hispanics. This is a population and age comparison chart. Now we're starting to look at local information. We see the United States on the left, well, on my left, your left here. And then we're looking at Arkansas, and then we also have it broken down by county. So in the United States here, the population, the age 20 to 24, it's 7.1% of the population. In Arkansas, it's 6.9, so it's tracking pretty close. Again, 25 to 34, it's tracking very close, the state of Arkansas. And then 35 to 44, it's again tracking very close. So as far as those millennials, Arkansas has a good representation of millennials compared to the United States. If we're looking at somewhere like Pulaski County, there's a slightly higher count of millennials that are aged 25 to 34, as you can see here. And those are really going to be your customers, your first-time home buyers. These are the folks that are ready to buy. Most of them are ready to buy now. They just don't know it. And that's really, and that's the biggest challenge we have, is dispelling the rumors. Many of these folks are trying to save 20% for their down payment because they simply don't know that you can get a home with as little as 3% down and even less when you're using down payment and closing cost assistance. So it's important for us out here in the lending community to educate those borrowers, to let them know that you don't need to save 20% down, that you can purchase a home with 3% or even less. The minority share comparison chart here. So again, when we're looking at the United States, as I mentioned before, right now, white non-minorities represent 62% of the United States. Here in Arkansas, white non-minorities are 73.4%, so slightly higher number of white non-minorities here in Arkansas. And then we can see here as far as black population, 15.4%, Asian population, 1.4%, and then Hispanic population at 7%. So all of those numbers are less than the United States population, so slightly doesn't really compare. Looking at Pulaski County though, if we look at the demographics here, the white population is 53%, so lower than the average United States population. 35% black, African American, 2.1% Asian, and then 5.9% Hispanic. So again, something to think about when you're thinking about who your current and future borrowers are going to be. The average unpaid principal balance. So here in the United States, the average unpaid principal balance for the Asian population is $390,000. Here in Arkansas, it's $197,000. Black average in the United States, $224,000. In Arkansas as a whole, $152,000. And then Hispanics, $236,000. In Arkansas, $147,000. So just looking at this, it gives me the impression that housing prices are lower here than the average in the United States. And then white non-minority, $223,000 in the United States versus Arkansas, $164,000. Again, we're talking about the unpaid principal balances of folks who already own homes. The average borrower income comparison chart, and this is especially important to you all because that's what you're using to qualify your borrower. So in the United States, the average income for the Asian population is $108,000 versus Arkansas at $99,000. So lower average incomes. And black African American, $81,000. In Arkansas, $63,000. Hispanics, $82,000. Versus the state of Arkansas is $58,000. When we jump over to Pulaski County, you do see this bar standing out. So the Asian population in Pulaski County is making about $122,000 on average versus the United States average of $108,000, and even versus the state average of $100,000. And then when we're looking at black African American, $62,000. Hispanics, $69,000. Minorities as overall are earning $70,000 in Pulaski County. In Arkansas, $67,000, and that's both below the U.S. average of $88,000. So just some interesting information, again, for you to take away and think about how you're going to use this information for your future borrowers and even current borrowers. And you can use this information to think about how you're going to market and who you're going to market to. Owner occupancy share comparison chart and table. So here in the United States, the average owner occupancy is 63%. So 63.6% of the population in the United States are homeowners, and then 36.4% are renters. In Arkansas, the home ownership rate is actually higher than the U.S. average. So in Arkansas, it's 65.7%. Versus 63, and then renter occupied at 34%. So slightly more home ownership, slightly less renters. And then if we look over here at Saline County, you see this bar really standing out. So in Saline, it's 77.6% owner occupied, 22.4% renter occupied. So again, thinking about who your customers are and where your market is we can use this information for, for the future, for who you're gonna market to, where you're gonna focus your book of business. Average credit score. So in the United States, the average credit score is 698, and that tracks pretty closely to Fredde Mac. So when we look, we only see our own loans. We don't see Fannie's or FHA, but our average credit score is 700. And that's really the key number, because there's a lot of things that change once you're at 700 or above, especially when you're talking about things like PMI and the rates at PMI that you have to pay. In Arkansas, on average, it's 678, so below 20 points below the U.S. population. So what that says to me is, especially as loan officers, one of your roles really should be making sure that the population is educated, that they really understand credit and how it works. Most of these folks in the 678 and lower range, they just don't understand credit. They don't understand that if you have a credit card and it's almost maxed out, that it's gonna lower your credit score. You can carry the same balance on 2 credit cards, and now your credit score is gonna jump up. It's just little things like that that folks don't understand, and it's really, again, up to us in the lending community to make sure that our customers are educated. You can get these 678s up to 700 relatively easy with just a little bit of effort and a little bit of time over 6 months or so. You can really get these folks up to where they need to be in order to really take advantage of these programs. But even at 678, they certainly qualify for HFA Advantage and for the great ADFA program, down payment assistance and closing costs. So on average, most folks, based on credit score, would meet at least the minimum credit score requirement for using ADFA. In Pulaski County, certainly challenging, 667, so significantly lower than the U.S. national average. So again, what we know here is there's work to do. Fredde Mac, we have a great homebuyer education program called Credit Smart. It's available online, it's free, and it's in 5 different languages, and they can take it at their own pace. And this really is just understanding credit. Something like Credit Smart would certainly help those customers understand credit more. On top of that, Credit Smart offers you the opportunity to be trained as a Credit Smart educator. So once you are a Credit Smart educator, you can host homebuyer education training. When I was a real estate agent, I was Credit Smart approved as well. And I would rent out a place just like this. I would team up with a mortgage insurance company and maybe a credit repair company, and I would host homebuyer education. It's a great way to incubate future potential customers, as well as you'd be surprised how many of those customers, again, that think they don't qualify, actually qualify. So once they come and they feel a little bit more comfortable and they allow you to run their credit, they'll find out that they're actually approved. So it's a great way to get additional business, and also it's a great way to educate the community. So it's something to think about. So the housing landscape. So what do we know? Strong foundation. The economy, employment, wages are steadily growing. Housing starts are increasing. So that's going to help alleviate a little bit of the inventory issues. 1 million plus homeowners regained positive equity in 2016. So these folks were mostly suffering from the credit crash of 2008, but around 2016, most of those folks now are above the water. So also something to think about. And then there is still a strong belief in home ownership. Despite what the media may tell you, a lot of folks, even millennials, still believe in the power and understand the strength of becoming homeowners. But there's challenges. As I mentioned before, lending myths abound, and the number one lending myth, which just blows my mind still, with all the social media and everything available on the internet, folks still think they need 20% down. And we've seen studies of, should I buy now or wait? And with housing prices appreciating, you can't save fast enough to even stay on track with the appreciation of homes. So a lot of times it really is better to buy now than to wait and try to save for that 20% down payment. Low inventory, that's certainly a challenge. rising home prices, mostly caused by the low inventory, and then rising interest rates. However, as Tim asked earlier, you're probably aware that ADFA has some great rates, and certainly something to think about when you're working with your borrowers. Even those borrowers that don't necessarily need the down payment assistance, quite often ADFA rates are better than what's out there in the market.